This is lesson 4A. This lesson relies more or less on a mathematical trick. We're going to use the for I in range loop, and we're going to use it a little differently than we have so far. So before I program, let me show you the theory behind how we're going to get this ladder here to appear. So we're going to go up to 3, and note that the last number here is 3. So let me just come over here, and of course, let's just start out with a little, so we're going to do n equals integer input, and that will be, and we're going to do a loop, so for I in range, and as always, I put a 1 in, I don't like the 0, and in this case, it would be inappropriate, n, and plus 1, so we get up to the 3, and we'll leave it at that, and always the colon, so we don't want to forget that. And I'm just going to leave this blank so I can explain the logic of what we're doing. So we want to have it print out 1, and then 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3. Now, normally we would be changing so that the number would go up, and we'd use these numbers here at the beginning here. But in a sense, we're actually using the 1, the 2, and the 3. We're going to use the ones column for the 1. And I'm going to explain to you how this happens. So the 1 will appear first, and that's the print. And the second one that's appearing really is we're changing the 2 here. So let me explain how we're going to change the 2. So when the I is equal to 1, what we're going to do then is we're going to say, well, when I equals 1, we're going to print it out. So we're going to have a print statement. We're going to print the I out. And then we're going to say that the I is then going to basically be equal to, so we're going to change it to the I, whatever, we're going to say the sum is going to then equal to the I, and we're going to multiply it by 10. So we're going to get the number 10. So that's not quite a 12, right? Because we're looking for 12. So how do we get a 12? So we have to change the 0. We have to change the 0 to a 2. So how do we get 1? So we only have I. So we have I equal to 1. So do I plus 1 equals 2 then, right? Because I equals 1. And we end up with 12. Do you see that? So I'll bring this over here again. So we want a 12. I equals 1. So we take the I, we multiply it by 10. We get it to be a 1 to a 10. So now we have this 0 here instead of a 2. So then we want to change the 0 to a 2. And we still have an I being a 1. So to change the 1 to a 2, we do I plus 1. And we get the 2, and we end up with a 12. At this point, we have a 12. Now we still have the loop we can use. So we can make the I now be a 2, right? So we have the I be 1. Now we can make the I be a 2. So we can I equals 2. And at this point, actually, we're going to print also. We're going to print the 12 out, all right? We're going to print the 12 out. And we have the I equals 2. And we're going to have, now at this point, we've got a 12, right? We have a sum that's equal to 12, or we have something that's equal to 12. So we can do a 12, we can do the same logic, times the 10 to get 120. And we've got the same problem. We've got a 12, and we've got a 1, 2, 3, or 120, but we don't have 123. So how do we get 0 to be 3? So we have I equal to 2. So we do I equal to 2 plus 1. So we still have the same pattern here. I plus 1. So I equals 2 plus 1 equal to 3. And we do 120 plus I plus 1, which equals, so you get the I. So the programming behind it would be, so we're going to program this now. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to print the sum. So we're going to write print sum, and up here we're going to put sum in, and we're going to set it equal to 1. Bring this back up, sorry. Because the first thing it's going to print is the beginning of this ladder, which we have over here is the 1. So normally the sum would begin with 0, as you've seen. But in this case, it's going to start with a 1, of course. And then in this case, we're doing I in range, so we're going to use the sum. So we're printing out the sum. So we've got to make the sum be equal to the 1. So we're doing sum equals, we're going to do the sum, and we're going to multiply it by 10. So the first thing that's printing out is the 1. Here's the sum is 1. And now we're going to print out the 12. So the 12 is going to be 1. So 1 times 10. So now we've got a 10. So we don't want a 10. As I said before, we want a 12. So I'm just going to do it in 2 steps. We could do it in 1 step, but I'm going to do it in 2 steps so you see it. So now we're going to do sum is equal to, so the sum is now equal to 10. We want to add 2 to it. So we're going to do sum plus 2. So we've got the I, right? So here's the 10. We're going to add to it the I, because the I from up here is still a 1. We're going to add a 1 to it. Now you got to remember it has to be a pattern so we can do it for everything. We just showed that in the other piece. Now we're always multiplying the number by 10 to make it go up by 1. So we're going up by 10, up by 100, up by 1,000, up by 10,000, however you want. And then we're always adding 1 because our I value is going up by 1. And the I is actually just changing the 1's value. Here the I. Here's the I. I is 1, I is 2, I is 3, and if you went I is 4, I is 5. So the I's are changing the 1 value. So it's sum, in this case, 1. We changed it to 10. And then we're going to change it to the I, we're changing to the next number. So I is 1, we're changing it to 2. And since this is in a loop, we're coming back up and we're printing. We're going to print the 12. So we're printing out the 12. And the I, in meanwhile, has changed to a 2. So in this case, this is